Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. This is episode 77, and I'm here, just Nick, with Jill Wheatley, who is going to talk about why she is where she is in Nepal, and what she's doing in Nepal, because she's from Thunder Bay. And but first, I will pause for a second to get a word from our sponsor. Concussion Talk Podcast is presented by HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges the gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck Health to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. Okay, so Jill, it's so great to meet you finally. But so why are you in? Why is it? What's in at 6:30 there? 6. It's 9 a.m. here now. It's like 6 something. Some weird time.
Yeah, it's almost.
It's 6:30. It's 6:30 because because 9:12 here. Yeah, and so it's like just a. Or it's a weird time zone. Newfoundland itself has a weird time zone, but so where are you now?
I'm in Kathmandu in Nepal.
And why are you in Kathmandu in Nepal?
It's a base for the mountains. As much as I like to be in the mountains, there are times where I need to come back to the city and gear up and take care of things like visas, and that will allow me to get back into the mountains.
And so, how long have you been going into the mountains? How long? Not this time, but just in general.
I have been since June 2017, so just over almost 3.5 years now. I have been traveling in mountains after I set off for 1 year. So 1 year has turned into more than about 3.5 times as long as I anticipated.
And your website is Mountains, and your Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Mountains of My Mind. And why did you start this webpage? What is your story that you?
Starting my website actually took a lot of convincing, and it didn't happen until about about 8 months after I started to travel.
What was the inspiration for this? The inspiration for your websites and your basically what is your story?
Okay, well, the website, basically, if I can share my story and provide anyone out there with a little bit of light, then I had shifted my perspective, because at first I thought keeping my story to myself was just where it was at. However, once I shifted with some convincing, realized that if I share my story, and anyone who could possibly be in a dark space like I was for so long, could get a little bit of light, a little bit of inspiration, then it is absolutely worth sharing, worth being vulnerable, and with my authentic tales of the good, the tough climbs internally as well as the mountains, and the bright sunny days as well. I have everything, and my story is very complex. Though not everyone can relate to, like you and I, a brain injury. Yeah. Every human, I believe, can relate to adversity and challenges along the way. It's not vision loss. It might be vision loss. It might be brain injury, but it also could be, dealing with, for example, COVID, just going through dark times and struggling to see the light, or whether it be other illnesses or struggles with career, etc. I think every human can connect some way through to going through dark times like I did. So once I was able to shift my perspective from keeping everything inside to actually sharing it, it just seemed like possibilities to help others. And so I went full in. I don't keep anything sort of closed. I talk about the real stuff, like the COVID blues or the Corona blues. It was tough. I was here locked down for 8 months.
Yeah, your room is not that big there.
No.
And you were saying you're in that for a while.
Yeah. Lockdown was tough, but I do feel like my brain injury and the 26 months I spent in 7 different hospitals prepared me for that.
And
So
could you talk
you
about
want me to,
that?
I
Yeah,
could
the
explain that a little
what
bit.
I'm reading your site there. You had the brain injury in 2014, the baseball injury, and I'll let
Yeah,
you say it. I'll speak it all better than I will. But yeah. So
sure.
start with how
So
it all started.
2014, my everything was going well. I was an so I'm originally from Thunder Bay, but I had traveled extensively. I've always been quite athletic, quite adventurous, and at that time I was actually teaching health and physical education, sports science in a high school in Germany, so in an international school. I had previously worked in Singapore
Oh,
and Russia.
what did you teach in Germany?
Health and sport. So basically,
Okay,
in Canada, you call a physical education teacher, but
okay,
I also taught like sports science. So in
right.
some in
Oh,
classroom
so
and
it
then
kind
some.
of works well for concussions as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'll sorry. I'll let you
Um,
continue.
that's okay. So I was teaching. It was early September, and the weather was a little bit overcast. Some rain predicted. It was just really damp, and my colleagues decided to keep their classes indoors rather than their physical education classes in the gym. However, I prefer to just put on some good gear and head outside, get that fresh air and the open space rather than the enclosed gymnasium. So it was a first lesson of the day, and I get as excited about sport as my students do. So we had just done a warm up together. We were running around the field. Just imagine Bavaria. You can sort of see the German Alps, and there's farmers' fields, and we have a big open, like a soccer pitch, basically. And it was only about the third week of
Football,
school, and
football pitch.
oh, sorry, soccer, sorry. Soccer doesn't even cross my mind anymore. Um, so we had spent the previous lessons like introductory skills with balls, throwing, catching, and on this particular lesson, my goal was to help students learn to connect a baseball bat and a ball. So they actually had not
hand eye,
used a bat before.
hand eye coordination stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the unit itself,
Oh, sorry.
could
How old are these kids?
they're in
They're
10th grade, so about
okay.
16, 15,
Okay.
16. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Do
And
they play? Do they play cricket in Germany?
pardon me?
Do they play cricket in Germany?
Wow, that's an interesting question because the boy that I'll tell you a little bit more about, one was from India. He
Oh,
was a
sorry.
very talented cricket player.
Okay. Well
Uh,
then, let's just get into that.
and
You
so
know.
let's put that together.
Yeah.
Baseball bat.
Yeah.
He used what he knew with a cricket bat, but hit
Yeah.
a baseball like he would a cricket ball.
Okay.
Um, Life has a funny way of working, and I was standing
Yeah.
at the equivalent of third base with a
Okay.
group of students, and the ball that he hit, and he was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. He just connected the ball in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So it comes back to late. Now I use the word serendipity.
Yeah.
The occurrence of events that have happened in the long run in a good way. At this time, I use the word serendipity because I'm super thankful that the ball actually hit me and not one of the 20 students I was
Yeah.
responsible for.
Yeah. Sure.
So at the time, the ball connected with the right side of my skull, and my right eye closed instantly. I was taken to hospital, obvious sort of in and out my memory. I knew there was something really wrong. Um, I was in a car that felt like I was being like raced in a race car, but I was in a washing machine and everything was shaking and unbearable.
Yeah.
However, I was told in the emergency after a brief analysis that I had a black eye and that my friends could take me home on the farm where I lived in Bavaria. Um, and I had some a very small fridge because I lived in a very small apartment. Think like in Canada, it would be like a hotel or motel little fridge.
Bachelor? Huh?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
but the fridge like super small,
Oh,
like
oh yeah, beer
you
fridge.
couldn't fit a bottle of beer in it.
Okay,
That
so
bottle
not even a beer fridge.
Yeah. So I had a tiny freezer with some frozen berries. And that's what I used to try to soothe
Yeah,
my aching, throbbing head. Um, I didn't have, regular ice. Anyway, those berries ceased to melt quite quickly.
yeah, they would.
Um, and the Ziploc bag that they were in was used for myself to try to vomit because I couldn't get myself to a toilet, anything like that. And this is in and out of consciousness. And until sort of 36, not quite 48 hours later, a friend was coming to visit from the UK, flew in, got to my apartment, and found me basically pretty much listless, where I had been
Yeah,
since coming home from hospital. So immediately back to that same hospital where I was put in an ambulance and taken to a neurotrauma hospital. I was quickly assessed thoroughly,
yeah,
MRIs and head to toe. So my black eye has never reopened. I'm 70% blind,
yeah,
and
yeah.
my skull was fractured and my brain was bleeding and swelling while I was home alone.
Mm,
So that, I mean, I could the details, just like your story, in and out of different hospitals and tossed between different specialists, and brain injuries are so complex. At the time, the focus was on controlling the bleeding and swelling.
right.
My eye would reopen, I was told, once the bleeding and swelling cleared. My eye is never reopened.
No.
Uh, so the neurotrauma nerve was damaged. So I can see on my left eye, like I can see you clearly, not perfectly clear. I cannot move it above the horizon and to the right and left, like perfect, efficiently. So if you look at me, obviously listeners are just listening; they can't see,
Yeah,
but
I
I
can see I have
was
sunglasses on. Yeah.
paralyzed on this side,
Okay. All right.
so I have no
Just yeah,
control.
just your eye though,
Looks like I'm
because
looking at you.
your mouth is moving fine, and
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
just
it's
your
just
eye.
the eye itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, that was not the priority initially, and in fact for a very, very long time, because there were other issues with the brain, the memory and the cognition, but also the appetite. I never, from the time of the hit, my appetite, I couldn't force food, and it led to extreme weight loss, and to the point where my survival was questionable, and I was taken from neurotrauma hospital to I needed treatment for the eating, and yeah, just all of the complexities, moving between 7 different hospitals, and that lasted for 26 months until finally I was released from Denver, Colorado. So from Germany, I was in between hospitals, and then from Germany, I was briefly taken to Canada, actually, to a treatment center in Guelph, Ontario, but I was too far gone for what they could accommodate, they could treat. And from there, I was quickly flown to Denver, Colorado, where the last 7 months I got my life back.
Wow. It's a
So
it's a long tail. So
it was
so
a
how
long climb, a
yeah,
long
it's
climb.
I'll bet it
Yeah.
was. So how did that lead to you being in Kathmandu?
Okay. So
Is this even
after I
longer?
got, pardon me?
This may be even longer, eh? Even more complex.
Yeah, oh, it's long.
That's fine.
It's really long. Sorry. Um,
No, that's fine.
I I needed to sort out some bureaucratic concerns, issues, because I had been a Canadian teaching in Germany. I didn't have a work permit anymore after that long in hospital. Without a work permit, I couldn't live there anymore. So that was a bit of a challenge, just finding residency, because I actually did not have Canadian residency. I
So
had
you
given that
had
up.
you had a home in Germany, but
I
you
did.
weren't allowed to be there.
I I had an apartment, but while I was in hospital, it was given up. So my dear
Okay.
friends, actually from Switzerland, went and sort of uh, cleaned it out, took some of my belongings, and I didn't have a lot. My car was sold, and yeah, the apartment was given up. So I just had a few bags at my friend's place in Switzerland.
So
And I needed to sort out banking and residency, and then I just felt so lost. I just decided that I was going to take a year, take some time just to sort of digest all
yeah,
that just had gone down, and try to work towards accepting the fact that my life isn't going to be the same.
yeah.
Um,
So I was going to ask you. So while you were in before your injury, while you were in Germany and you had friends in Switzerland, did you ever head up to the mountains and the height of the Alps, or think
always,
look up at them? Oh yeah. Oh, you were a
yeah.
mountain climber before this.
Well, no, I wasn't a mountain climber by any means,
You're a
but I was
hiker.
very much mountain running, like running, trail
Okay.
running,
Okay.
and cycling,
Yep.
and uh, um, skiing. So, when I say I was in such a dark place for so long, because I thought 70% vision loss, I'm not going to be able to go and ride my
Yeah.
bike
Exactly.
anymore. I'm not going to be able to hop in my car and put my skis in the back and my two different bikes on the roof and just go to the
Yeah.
mountains. And
Yeah.
so I felt like life's not worth living anymore. If I can't
Yeah.
have that independence, I'm out of here. And
Yeah.
so pulling out the tubes and just defying doctor's orders, because I really didn't think that it was worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Only, only because of a handful of people,
Been there. Yeah.
medical experts and friends, family who didn't give up on me. That's the reason I'm here.
That's
So
good. That's just
it's not
it's
me,
powerful
it's
there.
them.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I hear
yeah,
from a lot of people. That's just they need something to tell them that it's not over just because it
yeah.
sucks now, but it's
You could
so
not
it's
convince me that at the time, that's for sure.
yeah. I
Yeah,
can feel I can definitely feel that. So, but now you're in Kathmandu of all
I am.
places, and
Yeah,
you didn't see that coming, did you? When you were lying in the hospital.
absolutely not. Not a chance. So I decided to 1 year in 13 different massifs. So sort of not circumnavigating. Obviously, there's a lot more than 13 massifs in the world. However, um,
What is a massive? I don't even.
uh, like
Can,
a mountain range.
okay,
So the Canadian Rockies would be a massive.
okay,
So the Himalaya, the Nepal
yeah,
Himalaya is a massive.
okay,
So 13 different mountain ranges. Um, and when I came through Nepal the first time, there was something really special about it. I was convinced to run my first mountain race ever, which is
yeah,
called the Annapurna 100. So I had been less than about 10 months out of hospital, and here I am running a mountain race in Nepal.
how is
Talk
it? How
about
is
surreal. With
it's like
70% vision loss and a
I was gonna
body that
say
I was so unfamiliar with, because
yeah,
I had gone from healthy and fit, at the time of my accident, very active, to being so sick, so malnourished, given less than a handful of days to survive, and then getting my weight restored. And yeah, my body just went through so much significant change,
yeah,
not to mention 70% vision loss and running
yeah,
on trail.
exactly,
So uh, to get myself to the start line was huge. That was a mountain in itself.
yeah,
But with some convincing, I got myself there. And then I actually, the stories our minds tell us can be pretty cruel, can be pretty ridiculous
Yeah.
in this respect. But the stories my mind was telling me was, what it wasn't going to be good. But I really enjoyed that challenge. Um, I if you can believe it, just
Yeah.
smiling mountains
Yeah.
and making some connections. Like there were runners from Nepal and also international, and who's now become a good friend. Richard, who was hosting the race, told me about a race around Manaslu. Manaslu is the eighth highest mountain in the world,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a stage race just a couple of weeks after. So with my experience with the Annapurna 100, and just the beauty of Nepal, the people specifically, I decided to change my ticket. So flying to Australia got sort of put on hold. It got changed, as life does, and I stayed and ran around Manaslu. So it's a stage race, 8 stages. I think 7 stages, a number of stages.
Yeah, don't
Around
ask me because I don't know.
anyway, just and that is when I really fell in love with this country, and I knew I wanted to come back. So I continued after the race. I continued to travel for that 1 year as I had laid out. So
Yeah.
from Nepal, I continued to New Zealand and then to South America. And then I ended up back through Colorado, where I went to thank the doctors, to see and to thank the doctors who saved my
Okay.
life,
Yeah.
which is one of the most special moments of my story. And then decided to continue to travel. I felt that after 1 year, I was just getting started. And when I
Yeah.
say just getting started, I mean, it was a year that I thought I wanted to, just to get to know myself, how things have changed. But after 1 year, I just felt like, okay, I'm just starting to accept the fact that I'm never going to see properly
Yeah.
again, and I'm not going to be driving that car again.
But that's
But
okay. That's fine.
but that's okay. And
Yeah.
there's so much that I still can do.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it took some time, and I often talk about that shift in perspective,
Yeah.
like, and the mountain analogy of, looking at a mountain and think, you could look at it and think, oh my gosh, that's going to be so difficult. Everything about it is just a challenge. Or you could look at it and just imagine the possibilities, like
Yeah.
what could happen and everything that could go right, not go wrong.
Exactly.
So yeah, at that point, sort of after 1 year, when I really started to open up, to start to talk about it and see the benefits of helping others, by sharing my story and talking about the dark times, and very honest about how I craved control for so long and just letting that go. And when with brain injuries, the timeline, and I just expected all of these
Yeah.
boxes to tick, because I'm
Yeah.
very much, I like to be organized, and I want to know when this is going to happen. And
Yeah.
after that year, I just started to, I guess, to let go a little bit and to be more accepting.
Yeah.
The stages of acceptance. It's not linear by any means, but
No.
that first year, really just traveling and being alone, meeting different people from around the world. Yeah, it just there was a shift, a
Yeah.
shift that I'm really thankful, and yeah, I hope others
Uh,
can connect to that
Definitely.
perspective. And
I think they will. I think they have. I want to ask you about the challenges you face, like when you're climbing, running. But first, the hospital in Denver. So, what
yes,
hospital was this? And you said there was that's an amazing part of your story, such a special part of your story that you were like these doctors, which just was so amazing. So, can you just
yeah,
talk about the hospital in Denver and what's it called?
sure. I like light up talking about Denver Health is the first hospital where I truly feel they got my life back. And if um, my head doctor there, I remember, and I was so ill, like the memory
Sorry,
is
sorry. I don't
in
mean
and
the.
out.
You said the head doctor. Do you mean like your neurologist,
Oh,
or you mean the lead
sorry,
the
not my
lead
head.
doctor? No, no, that's
But Dr. Meyer, I remember him talking about Everest, and this is just only I've only come to realize this since then. But he talked about lifelines and the analogy of ropes on a mountain climbing, whereas in hospital I required these tubes to feed me for
yeah.
my medication, to be nourished, to be monitored, and because
In
I
and out
was
of
pulling them out.
consciousness.
I was defying, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was really, I had been tossed between so many specialists in Germany and then in Canada. I just felt so misunderstood, that I think, that darkness that I talked about is because I just felt so alone. Like I have no doubt people cared and they wanted to get me better, but I had just felt like nobody was really listening. Like it's not that I just don't want to eat. There was just so much going on. And it was at Acute, which is a part of Denver Health, that I really felt understood. Like it really felt like they listened. They changed sort of my diagnosis because they were so specialized. They realized that the trauma from my brain injury affected, affected my appetite and my issues with food
Yeah.
and eating.
I guess they
So,
see a lot of brain injuries at the in the Alps, the Rockies there, high Rockies there in Denver. They probably still have
uh,
CS and brain injuries there, do they?
yeah. There's a
Yeah.
number of hospitals actually that not a number, but a couple of really specialized hospitals in Denver where I was actually treated first was the eating.
Yeah.
But the thing is there like I had such a team. Like they just made me feel like they made connections between, there was the psychology, the speech, the physiotherapy, physical therapy, OT. Like every day was just
Yeah.
full
Rehab
of
stuff.
different
Yeah.
therapy, while at the same time that they acknowledge, were treating my eating. So um, for so long there had been a conflict between what I wanted and what I needed. Yet at Acute, like at Denver Health, they really they coddled that connection, or sort of that conflict with connection. They just relating my story or my wants to lifelines, to being ropes on a mountain, and no one ever summits or climbs the mountain alone. Like when Dr. Mailer would talk about Everest, no one just goes from from base camp to the summit by themselves. They need a team, they need support. And for so long, I wasn't welcoming that support. But as
Yeah.
soon as I started to feel like listened to and understood, like the psychologists just really, really listening, then magic started to happen. The recovery with that team, everyone from, like I said, the physical therapy, the nurses, and my struggles every time they would come in with a new bag of medication or a new bag of nutrition, which I was
Yeah.
struggled with. Just really, really connecting with me, and through my tears, they didn't give up, and I'm just trying to think of, oh yeah, and speech therapy, with my brain injury, there was
Yeah.
my limits in terms of speech and writing and stuttering. Like I just get so frustrated, but they were just so patient with me. Um, I remember like nurses, Stephanie, like just talking to me about real things, and then Remy, the therapy dog, just the whole team that made me feel human,
Yeah.
not just a patient in a hospital, but telling me she went horseback riding on the weekend, or bringing the therapy dog. I remember the first time the dog from the ward came in. It was a golden lab, and I just started to cry
Yeah.
because it was like something before the accident that I was used to. Like it was familiar. It was normal for me to see dogs at the farm or dogs at my parents' place. My, um, you know, it just felt human. So I just feel like um, Denver Health, when I could really focus, I felt connections, and I could really there was just a shift where I could
Yeah.
focus on my recovery,
Well,
focus on
it sounds,
my recovery. Yeah,
it does sound like that was a very important place for you. And you were talking about support, and they're talking
mm,
about support going up, and everyone needs support going up and down mountains. So what support do you find you need now? It does very serendipity. It
yeah,
fits well. Works well in this conversation too.
yeah.
What support do you need? Or do you need any when you're doing your trail runs or your climbing? I've seen you've sent me some amazing pictures of you summiting the mountain called the mountain just
Ahmedablam. Yeah,
Ahmedablam.
that was
Yes,
just 2 weeks
that was
ago.
just 2 weeks.
Yeah,
And you were done with the trail runs. You went. I saw on your
yeah,
webpage a 3,000 meters, 4,000 meter race and stuff.
yeah.
So she's tell us about any challenges you find and support you get when running
Sure.
and when mountain
Yeah,
climbing.
yeah. It's really again, it's surreal because I never imagined that I'd be able to have independence and running. I do most of the time I'm running by myself. I can see well enough that trails are best in ways.
In
Traffic can
like
be a
trails
bit,
like in the woods and stuff. Are you
yeah,
okay? You
because
okay with that?
when I'm not in, because I can relax in terms of no bicycles, no motorbikes,
Okay,
no cars coming from my right,
right.
especially. So,
So you can see
if I
like
can,
you can see roots and
yeah,
sticks and
well,
broad rocks and stuff.
um, yeah, so it's kind of a bit of a catch-22 because in the trails, yeah, I can see usually some rocks, some roots, but I have no depth perception. So
Yeah, I hear you.
for to see with depth perception, you need your two eyes work together.
Yeah, yeah,
And when you don't have that, everything's kind of flush.
yeah,
I've definitely, because of amazing therapists and a lot of training and time, I've definitely adjusted.
yeah.
The most difficult for me is running downhill,
Okay,
well, walking downhill because I can't necessarily judge the depth.
I hear that.
I have a lot of scars that could tell story. My hands, my knees can tell stories
Yes.
um, because of the falls. And that first year of traveling, there was a lot of broken sunglasses,
Yeah.
and not only because of the fall, but because if I fell and my sunglasses went flying, I was angry. I was
Yeah.
so frustrated. That we're talking about my work towards acceptance, and I was still caught up in anger and this frustration of losing so much of my vision and the autonomy of the athlete that I was before. So it took yeah, that first year, like if I fell and there were sunglasses, it might be because I stepped on them on purpose because I was just angry. It was not nice. But with time and acceptance and just getting used to, the falls don't happen quite as often. And I say that probably with friends listening who are laughing, particularly in our on Abu Dhabi last week. The going downhill. Um, Side note: Ahmedabad is known around the world for being one of the most technical mountains, specifically in the Himalayas, one of them, if not the most technical climbs. So that's a challenge in itself. But going up to 6,856 meters, but coming down for me is more difficult in
Yeah.
some ways, respects. So the big boulders specifically, when I can't judge the distance between them, I just follow red shoes. And that's a bit of a joke because my friend who was actually guiding me, he always wore, once we got our big boots off, he wore red shoes. And it's really helpful for me to watch someone's feet on the downhill.
Did you
So,
ask him to wear a red shoe, like a
no,
bright color, or he just did it?
no, he just had these red shoes, and it became somewhat of a joke. Um, but yeah, so just to watch his feet, or if I'm running with someone, I always ask them for two reasons: to run ahead of me when we're going downhill, so I can watch their feet, because I it helps a little bit with my confidence. If I can, if I know that they're sort of dancing on those stones, then I know I can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Um, and then, um, sorry, what was the other thing I was going to say? Uh, Watching
Depth,
feet. Yeah.
depth perception.
Yeah, depth perception. Sorry, sometimes that happens
Oh,
with
sorry.
my
I've interrupted. Yeah,
my phone.
I've interrupted you a bunch, so don't worry about
No,
it.
that's okay.
Um,
That's okay.
but
Yeah,
there's
just
a
watching someone else's feet is super helpful, and pointing out, like, with that, and rock climbing, like when I'm on a rock climbing wall, for example. I miss everything that's on my right if I don't make a
right. Yeah.
conscious effort to completely turn my head. So if someone's belaying me, it's super helpful when they point out, oh, take a look, there's something up on your right, or move your feet, that kind of thing. It's really
So it
helpful.
does
But
takes
I do
takes takes
know
that bit longer to move your head. Takes that bit
uh,
longer to move your entire head than
yeah,
just flick your
for
eye.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, so yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't so you, when you're doing your races, you can just when you're I don't know how races like
Mm,
if you
mm.
you just do them slowly by yourself like through the woods,
Yeah,
by
yeah,
yourself and just kind of hope or just not hope
yeah,
but just kind of like just assume there's no, which is just as dangerous but
yeah. No,
there's
I'm
nothing.
not. I'm since those first couple of races, I've participated in other running events where I'm with groups, but no, I don't run for the competitive component at all. When I talk about mountains of my mind, that's sort of how it started, like running in mountains, and that's sort of where I feel that's essentially my best therapy, just being in the mountains and running. And I say I sort out the world's problems when I'm running on trails. But I just mean, like, sorting out my thoughts, and
Yeah.
how I'm feeling, how I'm doing with respect to acceptance, and then just daily things in terms of being at peace with myself, and somewhat of a meditative state when I run.
Yeah, no,
Um,
yeah, sorry. Good.
no, I just get to a point physically where it's yeah, I can tune out most of the time, and sometimes it does mean I end up on the ground because I'm not
Yeah.
focused enough. But yeah, I think that could happen to other people too.
I think that's it's incredible how listening to your story, and I know like my story, you have a 70% of your vision, so your right eye is basically exclusively shut, and
Yeah.
for me I have double vision, but so it's not the same vision problems, but like some of the similar ones like depth perception is a challenge, um,
Mm.
and I know and just even and even our physical challenges were different. Like I didn't have problems like eating. I guess I did the first when I was in coma. When I was in coma and just came out of coma, I had trouble eating. I guess, but I've had other physical challenges and you had other challenges. So it's just different. And as we were saying before, as you were saying earlier, that's just unique to everybody. What a brain injury does do, but we all and even the people I've talked to on like the Montreal concussion, the McGill, the students concussion. I don't want to, the whole name is long, but U of T and McGill and Lauren Zyx in Utah and Katie Mitchell. All those people who Katie Mitchell doesn't have brain injury, but people end up in a similar state of mind, a similar mindfulness that's they kind of like not that you live. Everyone says, "Oh, you live life to your fullest," but it's not like you don't like live life any like you accept you appreciate every day more. It's not like that. It's just that it's just there's a different sense of how it's I don't know how it all works together, how everything works together. Like some days they're still not going to be great because you're just like today for example, it's outside, it's gray and it's raining and there's not much to do, so I'm probably not going to do much. I'll do a bit, but I mean that's part of it. And like in this, like I'll do this stuff. I'll get my podcast put together and stuff, and I'm sure there are days in Nepal, even though how big gorgeous it is, but there are days and you're just like I'm just not gonna. This is just nothing else really happened today. What'd you do yesterday? Oh, I didn't do much, and that's pretty much that's how it is. But it's not like you live each day like to the fullest, like I was saying, but that you accept that it all works together and there's all
Mm-hmm.
something that's you don't need to have a goal per se, but just know that it's moving. You're moving in the right direction, and you like the way it's moving. So kind of appreciate it that way, I guess. So I'm
Yeah.
rambling here because I'm just trying to think my thoughts out loud, running through them. But yeah,
No, I right. Like so many lessons from my brain injury, and I know like that. Like I said before, every day is not going to be pretty mountain pictures, but I'm aware now. Like I know if I'm having a bad day, I know it's going to pass. Like
exactly.
impermanence is something that I really, really hold on to. Like, yeah, it's okay to have bad days, and sometimes there'll be more than, more than a
Yeah,
handful at a time.
yeah,
But I know that things will get better, and I know that, the lessons from my brain injury and the time in hospital that yeah, they prepared me for this. They prepared me for 8 months of lockdown. That time of darkness. I know that how bad it was, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But it
exactly.
doesn't have. It's not going to last forever.
Exactly. It's just like I think the impermanence is very important. Even like I know you've been away from North America for a little while, but the anger stuff here that like I've been like you get mad at someone, but it's just like that you say okay I'm mad at you now, but this will pass. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's just right now I'm just pissed, but like you know talk to me an hour later or whatever, I'm like fine. It's like it's just something that happens. Just like you annoy me now and then that's it's over. Then it's
yeah.
just an emotion that happened. It's just but anyway, I that's my little I'm just rambling here because I'm thinking out loud. But we're you are at mountains of your mind. If we talk about that's actually the name of yours. So we're on Skype now, and I will actually I never do this, but congratulate Skype on this because Jill is in Kathmandu. I'm in St. John's, Newfoundland, and the connection has been surprisingly just I don't say flawless, but pretty much flawless. I mean, it's been like
Hey,
so. I mean, it's very impressive. And but anyway, sorry, mountains of your mind.
mountains of
Um,
my mind.
mountains of
Yeah,
my mind.
yeah.
So where can people reach you and find out more about your journeys now? Now you're down Dublin. You finished that, but that's there, and that will
Yeah,
I'll have pictures of that on my Instagram page. Um,
sure.
and Jill has it on her Facebook page as well. So how can people reach you and find out more about your story and what you're doing?
Well, anyone is more than welcome to explore my website. So it's Mountains of My Mind, and then I have all of the social media that goes with it. There's a Facebook page called Mountains of My Mind. On Instagram, I think they don't let me use the whole. It's too long, so it's
It's MTNS.
MTNS
Yeah.
at of my mind. MTNS, yeah, short form for mountains, which is I think is which is also the same for Twitter. I in Instagram I've been using more because it's quick, but I have a lot of writing and reflecting to do based on my last, like we alluded to. I just came back from Amadablam, so that was 5 months, or not 5 months, 5 weeks. I have just got back, so I haven't had a chance to do any publishing, any writing about it yet, but that will get up there. So if you go to Mountains of My Mind, my website, all of the links for the social media are on there. There's lots of pictures, lots of writing, and a contact page. So I'm more than happy to share my story more, to answer any questions, whether it be specifically about brain injury, vision loss, eating disorders, you name it, everything that's come in the wake of September 3rd, 2014. I'm happy to talk about mental health. I'm really open to sharing, and I believe it needs more time in society today. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. And yeah, whether it be the website or any of my social media, I'm happy to connect. And even if I don't get back right away, it's only probably because I'm in the mountains. But I definitely will personally respond to every contact that is made with me.
That's
Yeah.
great. And also all of your accounts will be linked in my in my post on my website and on Instagram and Facebook, and hopefully you'll search Jill's Mountains MTMS of my mind or Mountains of my mind on Facebook, and check out the website too, mountainsofmymind.com. And so I just want to thank Jill again for again, like this Kathmandu to St. John's connection has been impressed. And Jill's little small apartment there, but hold on, now you're gonna rack it with my microphone against my sweatshirt zipper, but that's annoying. But anyway, that's beside the point. But so thanks, Angel, and I hope that people check out your website and your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter. And I'm speaking too quickly for myself, so one thing I have to learn is when to slow down when I speak my speech. And I will do it now, and I will thank you again, and I'll slow down and say goodbye, Jill, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
The music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.